Hello and welcome to the Broadview Public Library's book banter. We are bantering about the book Perish by LaToya Watkins. I am Tisha.
I am Yvonne.
I'm Andrea.
All right, let's get into it. So, Perish, this was my book pick. Sounded very interesting on the jacket of the book. Interesting it was. It was about a family, a generational family. So it starts off with the grandmother. Oh, okay, yeah. Starts off with the grandmother, Helen Jean, and then Helen Jean has kids, and then it talks about each of her kids and in this family and their kids. So the book is about one family and what goes on, the secrets they hold, and what goes on in this family. Okay, so that was pretty much what the blurb says. So I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like, what's the secret, you know? And secrets there were. All right, so let's get into it. Yeah, this was it was kind of a hard book to read in some places because it was a kind of a hard book to read because it was very blunt. Like, she laid it all out there.
It's graphic.
Yes.
Graphic and depressing.
It was depressing.
There are a lot of triggers in this book for anyone listening to this, and there also will be spoilers. We are going to tell what happens in the book, so if you haven't read the book and you want to read it and you don't want us to spoil it, don't go any further, but we're going to talk about everything. So there are a lot of triggers in the book. Assaults is in the book.
Assaults.
Sexual
Child
abuse.
molestations.
Yeah, molestations, child abuse. So those things, just be warned, are triggers in the book. I don't know if there's mutilation in the book. I will call that mutilation. Yes. So there are a lot of triggers in this book. So just be forewarned. So the story starts off with Helen Jean, who is the matriarch of this Turner family, and is she pregnant or is she about to have a baby?
She's pregnant and she's trying to get rid of it.
Okay, right. Okay, she's trying to get rid of a baby in this outhouse. And
Yeah.
I guess
maybe she tell them what year this was and why she was doing what she was doing.
I guess it
When that first
starts
happened.
off. What year is this? 1955, in someplace down south, states. So she's trying to get rid of this baby in this old outhouse. She's unsuccessful.
I'll tell what she trying. Well, she's trying to drink something. Was it a cousin who gave her?
I think so.
Liquid or something.
Yeah, somebody else.
And I guess this is what they did if they got pregnant and wanted to get rid of it. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes
This time it did not work.
And this time it did not work. I think she did it before and it had worked.
Right.
But this time it didn't work.
Okay, well, this time it didn't work.
Please let them know that the baby was her father's baby.
So this is
That's
one of the
probably
reasons
why
she is trying to get rid of this child, because we later find out that this baby, there's also incest in the book. So this baby was a baby that was a result of her being molested by her father. So she's trying to get rid of this baby. She's unsuccessful. She has this child. It's a boy, and she never talks about it. So Wayne. The boy's name is Wayne, sorry. So the boy's name that she has by her father, the baby's name she has by her father is Wayne. And he grows up not actually knowing who his father is, that they're technically brother and sister, but this is his mama. But, technically that would be his sister? To some extent, half-sister?
Half-sister?
Yes.
That's
mother slash
half-sister
sister
mother?
is from his father slash grandmother.
That sounds crazy.
So their mother, Helen Jean's mother, apparently died when she was little. So Helen Jean, and she has, I think, two other brothers, Albert and Dennis. You don't really hear about Dennis because apparently he died in some war, but she grows up with her brother Albert, who they call Bacon. So later we come to find out that their father, Albert Sr., was molesting all of them, the boys included, Bacon included. So they're growing up with this trauma. of being molested by their own father in this house. Helen Jean has this baby, Wayne, who's by her father, and I don't know, I don't want to say she doesn't cope well, but I mean, her way of coping is not talking, like burying these secrets.
Like, if you don't talk about it, don't say nothing, it ain't there.
Right. That's
Right.
what
And
they did
ignore
back
it,
in the
just
days.
move
You
on and live.
Right, you just, back in them days, it
I
just.
guess you
nobody
probably would have
said
lost your
anything.
mind if you kept thinking.
Right, just keep it moving.
So apparently that's what happens. Helen Jean becomes this, I mean, I don't know how she was before the baby, but in the story, she becomes this kind of, I don't want to call her mean, but they called her grandma, so that kind of indicates she was this,
She was mean. She was mean to her grandkids, yeah.
Make them stay outside.
she was mean to everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I
Maybe
said,
that's because what happened to her.
Right.
Probably
Maybe
built
that
up
was her
anger that just.
Yeah.
defenses, that was her
Someone.
defense.
Right.
But she was, she was
Mean.
she was mean, I guess, but I mean, she was, I don't know, she was trying to survive, I guess, but whatever.
She didn't, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, she's coping with
She
trying to
cope,
cope with what
she-
happened to her, trying to cope with having this baby by her father. She don't really want anything to do with the boy. I mean, she raises him. He's living
Well,
in the house. She sort of raises him.
Sort of.
Later
Like I said,
on,
she really doesn't do anything to make sure,
she doesn't show him love. That's one of the key things.
There's
So
probably some hatred there because you are the result of being raped by my father.
But
being
that's right.
molested. So there's
So-
some anger there, some resentment there.
So she sees that in this boy, and she doesn't really want to have anything to do with him. She raises him, and she has this fear. She has this fear that he's going to turn out like the father. So she's always fearful that he has this monster, I think she calls it, in him, that he's going to do the same thing, grow up to be the same way that their father was. And lo and behold, but she doesn't know, so he does. But in the meantime, she builds this shed, and she makes the boy go and live in this shed.
did she build
Was
the
it-
shed or?
Yeah, remember they built that shed?
I know that it was built, but I don't think she built it.
I
I
thought it
think,
was
was it
whoever
her
built
brother?
it.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
but
maybe.
wait a minute. Well, I thought Bacon was molesting him too.
Oh, okay, so maybe it was Bacon and him.
I think the
that built the
uncle
shed,
built the shed, and
while
he started molesting the boy, and
Right.
then
while they was building the
Yeah,
shed or
right.
something.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so this
Bacon
molestation, they just
molested was
it was like a way of life in his family. I
right. He
can't
was
say it, but
molesting
it-
the boy, and they built the shed, and
Yeah.
So Bacon later on comes to live with them, and he starts molesting Wayne, the oldest boy. And Helen Jean later finds out that, so now Wayne has been molested by his uncle, so that causes even more trauma on him. He turns into a drug addict later on to deal with what he went through. His mama not loving him being put in the shed, and then his uncle molesting him. So that triggers Wayne and his behaviors. So it keeps, like Miss Yvonne just said, I don't know if it's just being passed down
It's just
from the
passed
men in
down
this
from-
family.
Yeah.
So
But didn't he molest his sister too?
we gonna get there, yes. So
Bacon or
no,
No,
not
Wayne.
Wayne.
Again,
Wayne.
Remember, because he went in the bathroom and she was telling him, "I told you don't never go in that bathroom." When she
No, that wasn't Wayne.
Who
So
was it then?
Helen Jean has Wayne, and then later on she has 3 other children by another man. I forgot this man's name. He's not on the thing, but she has 3 other
was
children.
he?
Is
Nice
that
man
the
to
man who was?
That was the man that grew up.
he was nice.
He was
to
really
her.
nice to her.
Something B. What's his name? Because she named Julie B after him.
Right. Yeah.
So
he was
Helen
nice
Jean
to
has 3 girls: Julie B, Ruby Neal, and Marie. And Julie B's father is somebody B because she names him after him, John B or
Yeah,
something like that.
Leroy B. I don't remember.
Too many people.
So, but I don't remember if he was all 3 of their dads, if that was the same man, or he got killed and somebody else. I don't remember.
Wait.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I think.
It doesn't matter because none of the guys, I guess he had these babies, but I don't know, were really in the picture. But this man, then later on, the man at the end, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Okay, so I guess
That
she
raised
after
him.
Julie B, but I thought Julie B was after the man that she's with now. I mean, that she was. I can't remember.
It was another man.
I know it's an older man that he kept the kids and he
Right.
treated the kids
But
like they were
Julie
his
B's
own.
dad, something happened to him. He got killed or something happened to him. And remember, she was saying that they didn't really know if that was her real dad, but she named him, and something happened to him,
Oh,
and then
okay,
she ended up
yeah,
being with later on, she got with this,
Other guy.
who was at the end with her.
Right.
I don't remember his name.
Oh,
But, so she has 4 kids in all. Wayne is the only boy, and she has 3 girls, Julie B., Ruby Neal, and Marie. Marie is special needs.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, yeah, and then Julie B. later goes on to have 2 kids of her own, Alex in January. And then January has 2 kids of her own, Javon and Jazera. Ruby Neal, her 3rd daughter, has a daughter named Lydia. And Marie didn't have any kids. So Alex is, I don't know how old at this time, but Helen really loved Alex. Like Alex was her favorite grandchild. So she doted on Alex a lot. Like that was the only one of her grandchildren apparently that she liked and that she loved him. And she doted on him so much that later on she covers for him in this huge lie. And this is kind of where the story revolves around, is all these secrets that Helen Jean was keeping and all the treacherous things that she did for, in this family.
Wasn't he in the shed too? Did somebody else go
I
in the
don't
shed?
I don't think so, because
I don't
Julie
think
wouldn't
so.
she wouldn't let her put him in the shed.
Oh, she wanted to put him in the shed.
Right,
She
but
didn't
but
get
he
no
got
shed.
sent away. Remember, he got sent
Oh, he
away.
the one that went to that boys' home
Yeah,
or
he
something.
got sent
Yeah,
away.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, they wanted
Okay.
to put him in the shed.
Yeah, okay.
He got off in the boys' home.
So I know we skipping around a lot. So yes, Wayne goes to live in the shed. Come to find out that his uncle, like you said, was molesting him. Helen finds out, his mom finds out, kicks the uncle out, right? Or kills him, one of the two. I can't remember what happened later on.
I think she killed him. She threatened him or something. And or did he pull a gun on her? I think he was going to kill her or something. But somehow she wound up killing him in the living room or something.
Okay. And then the girlfriend
So
came
there's
over or
the-
something, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So-
he had a crazy... Oh, he moved in because of the crazy girlfriend. I mean, he was trying to... Yeah. That's how he wound up there. in
And
the
he
first
was
place.
really strict on Wayne. Like he was really strict on Wayne.
Right.
But come
He's
to
the-
find out,
you know,
whoop
beat him
him
or
and
whatever,
yeah,
yeah.
things like that. Then come to find out he was molesting him in this shed. Julie finds out that's the end of Bacon, or she
Whatever.
tries to reconcile what was going on through Bacon. They have why you end up like this, why you do this to my son, blah blah blah. And I don't know if something happened between them, maybe as well, when they were growing up, that Bacon did the same thing to her, because his father was doing it to him.
Just everybody, just a
Everybody
group
was
thing.
just-
Everybody just getting everybody else.
So that was going on. And then Alex, Julie B's son, which is Helen's daughter, he starts getting molested by Wayne, his uncle. So Wayne got molested by his uncle. Now Alex is getting molested by his uncle, starting as young as he was 5 years old, he said. And they blamed him. Remember, he came home and his pants was all stained or something. And
I
Wet.
think that's when the guy that was with her realized this, or did somebody else?
I don't even know. I can't remember if they found out or not.
later on they
I
did,
just
because the mama killed Wayne.
Well, I
Remember-
thought Wayne he shot himself in the penis. I mean, he shot.
No,
No,
that,
no,
was, that
Wayne.
was the end.
What was that?
That was Alex at the end when he was an adult.
Oh shit! I don't know.
Alex was the police
Alex?
officer?
Yeah, Alex was
Oh,
the
Alex
end up
was
being a
out-
police
so
officer.
he shot
But
his-
Wayne
shot
was-
his thing off.
He the one shot his thing up at the end because
Yeah.
he didn't want to do that to anybody.
But he had already done it. That's the point. He had already done it. He killed the little girl, and then he
The little
molested
girl
the
across the
sister.
street?
Yeah,
The little girl who
That
had
was
his
him.
arm?
It was Marie.
and she blamed Ruby Neal's husband at the time, and that's why Ruby Neal went crazy.
I'm glad you
Oh,
get that
that's
in your
right, 'cause he
mind.
went
'Cause
to
I think
jail.
no, this is my mind.
He went to jail and died.
And who knew? My grandma or whatever name. She knew that, but
Right.
she didn't want.
She didn't want
Alex
Alex.
to go to jail, so she
So she
didn't say
blamed it on
anything.
him,
She
right.
She just didn't say anything.
They
I
sent
think
him
she
away,
knew.
but
He
she
went to
knew it
jail.
was him.
Yeah, and then that she did. What's her name?
Ruby Neal.
Ruby Neal. Yeah,
Went
she did.
crazy. She
went
lost her
crazy.
mind and left her daughter Lydia just on her own. So
Right.
Lydia ended up being resentful, in knowing that her dad was like, because the dad was her world. Like he treated her like a queen. And once he left, she was just out there crazy. Like nobody cared for her. And then, but she didn't know this for all this time until she was an adult. That the grandmama knew her daddy didn't do it, but never said nothing, just to protect Alex, and knowing that he did this terrible thing. So Alex ends up getting molested by Wayne. The grandmother finds out. She knows this. I don't know if anybody else knew. I don't know if the mama knew. But the grandma finds out. She goes over to Wayne's drug shack, gives him something, so he overdoses right there in front of her on this dirty mattress or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's the end of Wayne.
He was
But-
in the shed? Was he in the shed?
No, he was in the
shed. I don't know why
I think
bring up the shed.
he had an apartment, didn't he?
Yeah, something
Oh,
or
That's where
some
he
kind
took
of
the
crack
little
house.
boy to and molested him that day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So grandma finds out. So now it's her. She's an attempt to save Alex. Like she's trying to save Alex. But Alex is already gone. Alex did all this terrible stuff. He's
Alex got
stealing.
married though. He had a.
No, Alex didn't get
Didn't he
married.
get married? Somebody got married and had a wife and left their wife or though.
No, Alex didn't get
Oh,
married.
okay.
Wayne got married. Wayne was married.
Oh,
I
maybe
think.
that's what-
Wayne was married?
I think Wayne was
Somebody
married.
was married. Because who was a police officer?
That was
She
Alex,
said it
but
was
he
Alex.
wasn't
I thought
married.
Wayne was the
No.
police officer.
Okay, and then Alex was married. He
Alex
got
was
married.
not married. He was single. He was messing with the little girl. I mean, not little girl.
The one who lived in the apartment building?
Right, but he was saying that he didn't want to get involved with her because he
of
knew this
everything
about
inside
her.
of him.
Right,
He was saying,
And
you don't
he
know
was
who I
saying-
really am.
Oh, okay.
right. But he didn't get married at all.
Okay,
He was he didn't get married because he knew he crazy. So Julie B, and something going on with her. I don't know what's going on with Julie B because she in the threesome, and I don't know what that was about.
Is that the,
Yeah, that was the one that was. I never got. I
She had
didn't
a-
really get that
she
storyline
had
of why
a
that was
girlfriend or
important.
something sort of kind of animal.
Yeah, I didn't really get what was
It was
going
kind
on.
of like implied, not really like, you know. It was,
So I didn't really
Who
get.
was this again?
This was Julie B.
she had a friend who, I don't know.
She
what-
was in the
she's-
threesome or
she was-
something.
yeah.
I didn't really get
Kind
Did,
of
did,
weird.
why
did,
that-
did she have some kids? Or?
Yeah, she had Alex in January.
Okay, that's Julie B. See how this goes? I can't.
Like I say, it's too many people and they doing too much.
It's a family, but you just got, like you said, in the front of the book there is a family tree. So while we were reading this book, we had to keep referring to this family tree to remember who was who and who was who they were talking about. So if it sounds confusing when we're talking about it, we're looking at this family tree in the front of this book because it's one family. They're all from Helen Jean, who was their mom and then their grandmother, but these are all her kids and her grandkids. That this family, this is one family through the generations, and this is what's happened. These are the secrets that they're holding, the secrets that they're keeping. That's now destroyed their family, has caused so much distrust, resentment, and basically separation from their family. Because Lydia and January used to be close. They don't get along because she knows what Alex did to January, but she never said nothing. And January knows that Lydia knows, but never said nothing, didn't try to help her. So, and then Lydia's marriage is failing.
Me too. So.
Lydia's marriage is failing. Her husband and her were trying to have babies, but she kept miscarrying. And so that caused a rift between her and her husband. They were on the verge of getting a divorce. Her husband left her. She was alone. Her mama was still crazy. Lost her mind because of what the grandmother did, took her husband away. So once her husband was gone, she just forgot about her daughter. Like she couldn't function.
Who was it? Not who was it? January and January and what was it? Lydia that used to play and Grandma used to make them stay outside in the heat.
That's all of them,
Wouldn't let
yeah.
them come inside and they'd be outside.
That was all
burning
of them.
up.
And then one time, one of them tried to go in or something because she peed on herself or something.
Yeah, she just
And she got a whooping for that.
Yep, she would leave them
Just
outside
either
all
put the
day in the
kids
heat
outside, just
while she would have the air conditioning on.
On outside, I'm coming in.
outside burning up, sweating, just trying to.
Telling her to stay off her grass and crazy stuff.
Yeah, she was crazy.
Just while she washing her soap operas in the air conditioning.
Yeah, and they out there burning up, starving and everything. It was just crazy. They were
That was a
just.
crazy family. They was just
The grandmother was the catalyst of
insanely
all.
crazy. Yes.
I mean, they was dealing with trauma. I don't know if they was crazy,
all
but they
needed
all
some
had their
counseling,
issues.
yeah.
They
Well,
all
yeah, they
had,
were crazy.
and this
They
was the
had
main
mental
issue.
issues.
So, you know, all this incest was going on in this family, you know, and it was with the men. Like, these men were molesting the men and the girls, you know, in their families. And it just kept going on from one generation to the next generation. And that was, you know, that was the trauma. So, you know, again, the grandmother was keeping all these secrets, and the grandmother is sick. So this is what brings them all back together again, because the grandmother is sick. I guess she's in the hospital. She's dying, or whatever. So Lydia comes from wherever she's coming from. January, Julie B's daughter, Julie B,
I think
Alex.
she was the only one that actually left the town. Everybody else still
Yeah,
lived
who was
in
that
the
that lived
town.
with her and just lived with grandmama? It was one of them that lived there, her and her daughter or somebody. They lived there with
Oh
her.
yeah, one of her daughters and
Somebody
her
took her,
child
was
did
taking her
live
money. She had money stashed away. Somebody was taking her
That
money.
was Julie B, remember?
Okay,
She was trying to find the money. Ruby Neal was just crazy. And then Marie, the last daughter, who was special needs, she ended up killing herself, I think, committed suicide because Alex molested
Right,
her friend.
And both of them were special needs.
Right, both
They
of them were
best
special
friends.
needs, yep. And Alex molested her
I thought
friend.
that little girl disappeared and they couldn't know.
Well, Alex was molested, but she came back. She ended up killing herself. Is that what happened, or did somebody kill her?
No, didn't they kill her? I mean, didn't they find her dead or something?
Oh,
The
yeah,
little girl
okay.
across the street
That's why the other
eventually?
one got upset. Well, I guess the one girl and then Marie, I guess
She killed
yeah,
herself.
because she was so, upset. That was her friend.
So that's when everything kind of went to a head because they find Marie's friend. I forget her name, but she was a special needs
Right.
little girl also. They find her dead, and the grandmother blamed her daughter's husband, Ruby Neal. I forgot his name, Soweto, something with an S.
Oh yeah.
She blamed
Oh,
him.
that was his name. So
Yeah, it was.
And said that he was the one that molested and killed this little girl. So they arrest him. He goes to jail. All along, the grandmother knew that was a lie, but she never said nothing. The grandmother knew that Alex was the one, her grandson was the one that molested and killed this little girl. But in order for Alex not to get in trouble or go to jail, she blamed her daughter's husband. Of all the people she could have picked in the world,
Maybe she didn't like
she could have picked her own little girl's daddy.
I don't think she did like him.
But I mean, like I said, of all the people she could have picked in the world to say, why would she pick her daughter's husband?
Yeah, maybe.
I think she didn't like him or something.
But I mean, that was just cruel.
Maybe, I don't know. Did he treat her bad?
No,
Yeah, I think she didn't like
she
him.
didn't. She didn't treat her
Wasn't he
bad.
from Africa or
Yeah, I think
he was
somewhere?
from
I don't
Africa
think
or
she liked him.
But
Yeah.
she didn't
From the
treat.
get-go.
She
I don't
didn't
think-
like
Yeah, I
him.
think that's what it was.
No, she didn't like him because he was treating her daughter like a queen, and their child Lydia, like he was a good husband. He was a good dad. He was providing for them, treating them, like he was supposed to. And she was maybe jealous that she didn't get that. So I don't know, but why of all the people in the town?
She didn't like him. She
Get
wanted to get him out the way.
I don't like
Out
that.
the
He's a
way of
good
what
guy.
though? But I'm saying out the way of what?
I don't want to even
it.
see him.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I'm blaming on him. Get him out the way.
Why not?
I
But,
don't
I
like
mean,
him. I
they
don't like
would-
seeing him.
They weren't even living by them. They was when they
I don't know,
living in
she
an
just-
apartment
I know she
downtown or
did that.
something.
I guess she like sometimes he come by here, so I don't want to see him at all.
I don't even come down my block. I don't like you.
I don't know what the
Won't you near
reason
the family?
was.
That's right.
Please.
I don't know what the reason was that she would pick her daughter's husband of all the people she could have picked in that town.
There wasn't anybody else. I don't think that she thought would be that close
They
to
were
Alex.
believable, like,
right. She figured
they're
it would be
believable,
believable
yeah.
that he would do that
He
to
would
him.
do it.
But if they knew him, like I said, if he was such an upstanding guy, and I don't know, I just thought that again, the Helen Jean, the grandmother, the mother to them, was very manipulative. She was mean, and for her to do that to her daughter was just unusually cruel, knowing that that was her daughter's husband and her granddaughter's father.
Remember, the one was crazy, so okay.
Yeah, she was.
And
Playing
to
with
save
Jack.
this little boy who she knew had this same, whatever they want to call it, trait or, you know,
Trade, just they, pass down thing.
In them.
You get
Right,
molested, you wind up in them.
It perpetuates.
Yeah,
whatever
just
this
keeps
was.
going and going. And
But I mean,
going.
instead of getting him help, instead of saying, Alex, you did this terrible
Man, people
thing,
don't get help back then.
It didn't seem
I'm
like
gonna
nobody
blame
back
I'm gonna
then had
blame
no
an
help.
innocent
Nobody
man
had
to get you
accountability.
off.
People didn't get help back then.
No, they just did.
They just swept it under the rug.
Yeah,
You know,
like,
he's a little touched. We don't want to mess with him.
don't say nothing.
Right.
But I mean,
Stay away from
that's
him,
why this
so-
just keep happening. So at this point, I don't know what year this is, but you know, Alex is Wayne, Alex, you know, they in some kind of position where they can get this little boy help. Instead of the grandmother
What the heck?
covering it up and blaming an innocent person, that would have been okay. Alex, you did this thing.
She wasn't in her right mind.
You need help.
Yeah,
Nobody
that was
no
her
help.
baby, and she
The whole
Well,
I'm
not
saying to get
anymore.
help, that mean the whole family would have had to go on some help because
Right.
this started
That
way
opens
back
up a
when.
whole can of
It would have
worms.
to
It's like
start from the top and work its way down. Wow,
How did this happen? Well, great uncle so he started.
He did it first, so
Just
then he
what-
did it to Billy, and then Billy did it to Bobby, and then it just kept
It got down
going.
to Alex.
You didn't have to
was
start.
trying to
Right.
save Alex.
Helen Jean would have had to admit
A whole
who
bunch of
she
stuff.
was and what happened to her.
Right, is what I'm
Rather
saying,
do
and
all
who,
that-
what happened, her son Wayne, with that, that was
Right.
so
Why?
she
Why
didn't open
do
up all that.
Just
That's
save
what she
Alex
said,
and
whatever.
send this man to jail that I don't like.
Right.
Because he was close to him. It was believable.
Do what
like
you
said, that
can.
he would have done this. So send him to jail. Send him to jail because
Get
I don't
him
like
out the
him.
way at the
And I'm going to
same
save
time.
Alex. I'm going to try and save
And Alice
Alex.
would be okay eventually.
If it just,
I don't know, but that was
Because remember, he
wrong.
was a police officer. Everything, so she said,
No,
good job.
right.
he was trying to.
Maybe he'll get himself together.
Right, that's what she figured he was a police officer doing.
Right.
That was later on,
Something
no.
of himself.
That was later on after he went to that boys' home or wherever they farm, wherever
Well,
they
that's
sent
what I'm
him.
saying, though, still. But he grew up and he, became a respectable, so everybody thought.
So they thought he was.
Yeah, so figured he'd be all right, eventually.
Or he's a police officer and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
I
that
guess
don't
you figure
mean
somebody
nothing.
made it. Somebody
Nobody
made
else
it.
did anything with their lives. Everybody else was still either at home or.
January was trying to go to school. She was working. She went through her life paranoid because of what happened to her.
See?
That she was paranoid with her own two kids. Javon, she had a boy and a girl. And like you said, she didn't want them being in the bathroom together. She didn't want any kind of, she was paranoid about them taking a bath together or them being
playing
in the
together,
same
being
room.
alone together.
Right. Yeah.
So she was so
She kept an eye on
paranoid
them.
that she didn't even marry the dude, their father that loved her. Like, she went through her life being paranoid because of what happened to her and nobody ever talking about it or nobody dealing with it. And that she put on her kids. She, her life she said she could have been married. Not to say she wasn't happy, but she didn't want to marry this man or get close to this man because of the trauma that happened to her. But the man obviously loved her, wanted to be a family with her, but she was like, no, and every little thing, with her son, and she got mad at her son for whatever he did, he didn't know, but she got mad at him, was about to beat the little boy up, because, I don't know, he had to use the bathroom while his sister was in the tub or something, I don't remember. So, just automatically thinking that her son is going to be this way too. But he don't know what's going on. But that's what I'm saying.
That's
But
all she knows. So she
all
figures,
she
you know.
But you putting that on your son, and your son don't know what's going on. Your son don't know that these things happened.
But she knows, and that's in
She
her.
right.
So
She
for
knows,
her, that's something that happens. That's just
and that's
the way
why
of
she's
life.
being paranoid. That's
So
what I'm saying.
yeah,
She's
exactly,
projecting
because she's-
onto her kids, but they don't know that that's happened. So she's already putting this on her
She's
son.
protecting them in her mind.
In her mind, but her son don't know that his uncle was molested and he was molested, and her little son
No, he
don't
doesn't.
know that.
Right, he doesn't. But for her, in her mind,
That was the only way
that
she
was the
knew to
only way
protect
she could
him.
do it.
And that's my point exactly.
It's not. I guess because he doesn't know. Sometimes you protect your kids from things, and I'm gonna do
Don't
this
know.
for you, and I'm
Right.
protecting you from. You may not
You may not
understand
know why
it,
I'm doing it, but-
I'm doing it for you. I'm protecting you from this, and maybe someday you'll understand why I'm doing it.
I'll
So you
explain
don't
to you later.
always understand because he's a child what she's doing, but she's doing it in her mind because I'm protecting my child. So like I said, sometimes you do that. You protect
No,
your
I mean
child from
I
things.
get it that they don't need to know, right?
They don't
He
need to know.
don't
He
need
didn't
to know that. But in the same breath, what kind of life is that? What kind of example are you setting for your son and your daughter? At the same time, it's okay. I'm protecting him on the chance that my son is going to do this. Instead of saying, okay, this happened to me. I know that this happened to Alex, etc.
Happened to everybody in my family. So.
I am going to go and get help because I'm living my life in fear.
To tell them that
I'm living my life in
your
fear.
Your grandmama and your great grandma knew
of that my son
and your uncle.
They're gonna start talking to them, and then
like,
she has to tell them, like you said, everybody. Well, you know, we were raised. This just happens.
But she don't have. But you said if she goes and says in the therapy or whatever the case may be, that's her private therapy. She can talk about what she needs to deal with her trauma without it, being put out there to say she can cope with her trauma and get over her trauma, not get over it, but cope with it.
Why does she feel this way? And back then.
And that's what therapy is about.
I'm going to say black people
didn't
didn't just started recently going to therapy. Black people didn't go to therapy. Black people look.
And this is why a prime example of why
you don't tell what happened in the family.
Why we have
in the family. Exactly.
This is a prime example of why we see people in our community coming in here like they are or on the street or being because of mental health issues, because of whatever trauma.
Black people more black now. It's more
more acceptable to go to a therapist.
Right, but
it was never not acceptable. It was acceptable to
like
go around being crazy.
But
to drink. A lot of people because what did we do? We did drugs. We did alcohol. We were alcoholic. That was not different. That was a way. That was a coping mechanism.
It may have been a coping mechanism, but you did not go and talk because that was something.
Tell them that my daddy raped me. You
do not tell that.
But I'm gonna do drugs.
No,
but I'm gonna do drugs and become an alcoholic.
Because that was their way.
Uncle Johnny.
That was their way of coping.
Right.
That I can function every day. The only way I can function.
That makes sense.
Don't go to therapy.
That way I can keep my secret and function at the same time.
No, you not functioning if Uncle Johnny over here doing heroin.
If a drug addict,
they
don't know they're not functioning.
And there are some people that are functional drug addicts. People that are functional alcoholics.
Some of them can't function without.
Right,
that's what I'm saying. That's their coping mechanism.
Come home, have a drink, go back.
But that's what I'm saying. It was a way to keep that secret and still make it through life. Go to work every day. Appear to be normal.
Right.
Except when you say
you say that bottle my therapy.
Your hit or whatever.
That hit is my therapy.
Right.
I know people
that's your therapy right there.
Like they hold a job, they're functional.
And then you're like, okay, I'm ready. Now what we do?
I need my drink and I'm gonna get on.
That's what I'm saying.
Make it do what it do. So yeah, that's what the coping mechanism was. Not therapy. Like I said, black people.
And I'm not saying it has to be therapy, but I'm just saying it has to be something. It has to be something that is going to help you get through or talk about the trauma. I guess I'm going to say healthy, a healthy way.
Well,
to get
it
through.
Matter at the time. When you're in pain, you just want to stop the pain.
You want instant.
You don't care if it's healthy for you or not, as long as I feel
I need
better
to get this pain to go away now, today.
Right. That drink gonna make me forget about that.
But when I wake up, it'll be there again. But I'm gonna drink. That's
and that, like you said, that's a cycle. That's a cycle of perpetuation. Because, like you said, Ruby Neal, her coping mechanism, she lost her mind, and as a result, either way, as a result, her daughter was neglected. So now her daughter feels this resentment, feels this neglect, and she thinking it's tied into why she can't have kids. So now she got issues. They might not be.
Like she said,
so it's a trickle down effect.
It wasn't like now where you got outreach programs that we got places you can call. Right, nobody to call.
Crisis. Call Miss Cleo. Call somebody.
Miss Cleo call a girl like
just saying.
You just keep that quiet right now. Here, pray to the Lord, and everything gonna be fine with you.
But that's the same thing January did. People did. They went to church.
That's all they did. They didn't go to a therapist though and open up everything.
God was their therapist.
I don't know where they were.
This is what my daddy did to me.
Or what it was, but they didn't have that.
Small town
thing available.
That wasn't
you had to be rich white people did
right.
that.
Even
poor white people didn't that.
They didn't have no money.
They didn't have no money. So that's
why I said
that was kept
time.
in the family. You kept that a secret.
And I know, and like I said, we know how that works today. We know because of these generations of secrets in our families. You see things today. Oh, my grandmama was black. Well, she passed as white my whole life. I'm black. Right. What you what you say? I'm black
because kids. I didn't know them were the kids.
Exactly. Like
that's not a real daddy. Oh.
All
I don't know when the real daddy.
Oh, this man I thought was my uncle was really my real dad because
Right. You mean my sister was my mama?
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
You know?
Or sometimes
Like,
it's
all
your
these-
grandmama, you didn't know. The sister had the baby and the mama raised, you thought that was your sister.
Right. So
Right.
all
So you
these
get older,
generations
like,
of secrets.
That's my mama? I thought she was
That
my
later
sister.
on,
Yeah.
like you said,
That's
you
how
might
that-
think in the time
never know.
you know, but like you said, later on, generations later, when these secrets come out, and the people that they're immediately affecting, like you said, oh, I'm black, like you know, you in group, you know,
Yeah.
you done married a white man thinking, and your kids come out brown, be like, who, you know, because you know your great grandmama was passing
She's
and
on
went,
pass.
you know,
She wouldn't go
So
out
said
in the sun or
these-
anything. She wearing big hats.
right. So said, and that's what this was. It was like, you know, every generation, these secrets affected their lives. They affected their ability to interact. They affected their interpersonal skills. They affected, you know, Ruby Neal didn't do nothing. She couldn't do nothing. Marie killed herself. Like their mental health was affected from every generation to generation because of these secrets that were held in their family and not being talked about, or you know, not getting help, whatever the case may be. So I don't know. It was just a very,
Depressing, crazy.
it was a depressing story, but again, it was so many stories that I'm sure people have lived over the generations. Like you said, this isn't something that she probably made up these characters, but this family is like so many other families, you know, probably some people in our families or in our communities, or you know, like you said, we're descended from slaves. So God knows, you know, a lifetime of trauma passed down from, you know, generation to generation with all that was going on. So, yeah, all this stuff is going on. There's so much stuff to unpack in this book. Like I said, it's hard to keep the characters straight if you're not looking at this timeline. All the characters have their own stories in this book. So, ultimately, the grandmother dies, I think, in the hospital, right? Grandmother dies. Lydia, Ruby Neal's daughter, January, Alex, they all come to the hospital at some point. The family don't want to have, the sister, January, don't want to have anything to do with Alex. They haven't seen Alex in so many years. But Alex comes to the hospital. He thinks that this is a good time to unload whatever guilt that he had for all these years. He go in the bathroom, and you said he shot.
Blew his thing off.
Yeah. And then apparently tried to flush it down the toilet. And then the mama come in and start laughing and be like, and then they come take him away. And that's the end of the book.
No, that in the book. I thought
No, that's
she
the end
moved
of the
away. Remember, she was moving
did
away
she?
with her
Yeah,
kids.
because they had. I think
'Cause
he
I
wasn't
think
there.
at that
Because
point-
he wasn't there. He was in the hospital.
Yeah, he was in the hospital. He didn't die. But remember, she decided to take her kids and move. January and the little boy.
Right, yeah.
And her mom, that she decided to move. I guess at that point, she was trying to break that cycle. Like, you know what?
Right.
Enough's enough. This family has been through enough. We are moving out of this town.
Homer, that's the
Getting
guy's
away from
name,
that.
Homer.
Oh, the guy that was her.
Yeah, so she moved. The end of it is when she moved. She tell the kids that they're going to move to a nicer
Right.
apartment or
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So maybe the healing will start.
Yeah.
maybe with her, maybe she'll get some help.
Hopefully,
And
because
not,
Good
you
God.
know, let her kids and be siblings. And, you know, let the little boy
Live
play with the, right, you know,
normal
let them be siblings. But it was a lot in this book. It was a heavy read because it was so
heavy on your heart.
It was-
Because
it
every
was.
time I read about somebody molesting a child, I just
yes.
oh my God, I can't
had-
read this book
right.
no more. I close it up, put this out, I can't read this no more.
I did the same thing I told you,
Oh
yeah.
my
Hard to
God.
read that
And then
book.
I was depressed for the whole day because like I can't stand to hear somebody do something cute. I really can't.
Right. See, yeah, it was very, very depressing.
It was a depressing
It took a
book.
lot to even, I mean, after I read it, to get over it, to get it out your mind because I'm like, Lord,
Right.
mercy, Jesus.
It's like, what?
What?
They say it's unimaginable. It's
It
unimaginable.
was unimaginable.
Just so it was a
Whew.
and I think this is her first novel. I think, but it's a heavy read.
It's a heavy book for a first book. Lord have mercy.
Write something a little more upbeat.
And like I said, I mean, you know,
I mean, if she wants to write a sequel, that's
don't write no sequel.
I'm saying, what happened? Did the people ever get
Write a
themselves?
sequel with
I'm
January
saying
and
that
her
they
kids that
got
need it.
themselves together. You know,
Right,
she
and
got
time.
married and then
Right,
happily
yeah.
ever after
I
something.
say don't don't write no sequel now.
I'm saying
Because
that.
everybody died in the book. You know, the grandma was killed.
Well, I'm saying
everybody
they all
died.
died off, so maybe this
Yeah.
next generation, I'm
Right, well,
saying,
they don't have to
will
worry about nobody.
prosper.
Say,
In
please
a
don't write.
positive,
Please don't write no sequel.
healthy
I'm sorry, Miss
manner.
Watkins, but don't write a sequel to this.
I'm just saying to make you feel better. Make you feel about the book that everybody's okay.
Right, yeah, just everything is good now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand the importance of telling this story. I do understand the importance of telling because, like you said, you know, things that we bury eventually, like they say, come to
Come to light.
You can
Nothing ever stays
you know,
buried.
you can
That's
right.
the truth.
Nothing never stays buried for long.
Lord knows this should have stayed
And-
buried because.
Yeah, it was. So I can
That's
understand
too
the
much.
importance of her telling the story, but it was just such a heavy story. It was
It's too
such a
much.
saddening,
Too
disheartening.
much, just nobody
was
got
too
anything. Just,
You know, everybody, like you said, nobody really had except for January, I guess, and her kids. Hopefully, they had a
she
happy
packed us
ending.
and I'm
I'm
gone.
done.
And she
I'm
did that.
gone.
Of course,
I'm
she
leaving this
moved
town.
away. Like you said, she didn't.
Gotta
She
get
Yeah,
out
she
of
would
that.
finally decided to move out of that little town.
It was like they were sucked in some kind of a
Hole or
void or
something.
something.
Can't get out. Can't
Like
get
a
Dug their
toxic-
way out and we gone.
You know, it's like you said, just one toxic. It was just a toxic family from starting with Helen Jean. Well, not. I shouldn't say starting
Well,
with
it
Helen
had to
Jean.
start before
Starting
that.
with the father.
Or
Or
Yeah.
maybe it started before then. Maybe it started with
Right,
his
they
daddy.
just-
I don't
right,
know.
they got them going some
He had to
slavery
learn it
time.
from somewhere.
That's
He
what I
just didn't
said,
one day wake
generations.
up and said, I'm going to molest my children. So
I don't
you
even know.
what I'm saying?
And it might have been going since slavery
Since-
time, and that's
Oh,
just it. Just
knows?
you know,
I don't understand. And I never
I don't
will.
understand.
I never will understand what.
What drives?
I don't get it, but it's not for me to understand. It's not for
That's
me to
young
understand.
kids, not your
I know
own.
those
Your
are
very
people
own
that are
children.
sick. They have a mental
They
have
do.
a mental problem that they think that they're attracted to.
Well, it's
little
not even
kids.
attraction. It's just like they
I mean, I
just
guess
doing
it's
it.
a kind of a sexual attraction to these
Like they're
kids.
just doing it just to
Because they want
do it.
to, and maybe because it's a power thing. I have power over this child. I don't know. It's some kind of mental
That's even
thing
worse.
that they have that
You're supposed to protect a child, an innocent
Well, you're
child.
supposed to protect,
Well,
especially
yeah,
your,
if you're a normal
children,
person,
you
but if
protect
you're
them.
kind of a crazy,
You're not supposed to
sick
hurt them,
person,
so make sure nobody else hurts them.
Right.
you're
But
supposed
this
to be
family,
the
that didn't work out
That
that
didn't work
way.
out. They, they're twisted. Their minds got twisted.
And like you said, you don't know what effect, because as a kid, the person that you're looking up to as your parent is the one that's hurting you. And you, like, how do you process that? How do you deal with that? How do you understand that?
You don't have.
How do you become a functioning adult? How do you become an adult and be able to take care of your own family and
you
knowing?
don't, or there are people that block it. People have a split personality because that other personality takes over so that the weak personality can cope. So a person that gets molested may go in a different place. And so that they can cope with that, or they forget it. I remember there was this one lady. She didn't realize she was molested by her father till she got older, and then something triggered, and then she started remembering because she pushed
it out
down
because
and
it was
blocked
just
it.
that painful.
So she,
That was her. See, that was her coping mechanism.
Right, yeah, it's a coping.
Just
They
block
find
it
a
out
way
of
to
your
cope
mind.
with
She didn't
it,
go to
and then
drugs
so
or whatever. She blocked it out. Like
Right.
it's just gone. It's not there no more.
Right, she blocked it out
I
until
don't
it
think
came
about
to
it
light, and
happening.
she realized I was molested. But
You gotta go through all
so
that.
people have different coping mechanisms to try and deal with
Yeah,
that.
you're right. You are definitely right. Like you said, everybody copes with trauma differently.
Right.
And mental health is serious. When you see somebody that we don't think, quote unquote, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but normal, but what is normal? But when we see somebody, acting in a way that was like, oh, what's wrong with that? We call them crazy because, something is wrong with their mental health. They're not crazy. It's just that they might have some mental health issues at that moment and they need help coping with them, or they haven't found the right ways to cope with it. And this is what they know right now. This is all they can do at the moment. So it's a really serious
you
issue.
never know what's going on with people.
Right.
People can be very functional,
But still have deep
and
scars.
still have scars that they don't. And they can function with these scars. They like you said, they pushed them down, they blocked them, and they move forward with them. So, people have stuff that's going on that people don't know.
Right.
Every open book doesn't have to be read.
Ooh, very deep.
I just saw that. I get these motivational
Very
quotes.
deep.
Okay.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's what it said. I said, that's a
But so we see it, like I said, when people that come into the library sometimes, and all we can do is do our best to.
Wait, I'm sorry. everyone has a chapter they don't want to be read out loud. That's what it is.
Okay. That is true.
That is true.
That is true. We, like you said, not everybody's trauma or everybody's scars, they don't want it to be broadcast. And people say, I don't want to be seen as this, or I don't want to be,
People don't want to seem,
You don't
or
need to
people
know
don't
that.
want pity.
Right,
Don't
right.
pity me. Or people don't want people to look at them. Oh, so some people don't.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Very hard. But there are, thankfully, a lot of resources out there now. There's a mental health hotline. If anybody is in crisis or just think they need someone to talk to, and I believe it's anonymous, it's free, you can call the mental health hotline and talk to somebody. If you do have a primary care doctor, you can talk to your primary care doctor about mental health issues, and they can refer you to, if you don't have a primary care doctor, you can always go to an emergency room and they can refer you to someone that helps with mental health issues. So thankfully, there are lots of resources. You can also visit your local library and ask a librarian to help you find resources if you're experiencing.
You can go to your church and you can
Yep,
talk to
you
say
can
they
go
can
to
maybe
church.
refer to if
You can go to a church. You can go to a church if you're not a member of a church. You can go to a church as a resource. So there are a lot of resources now.
I always
that
think every now and then in your life, every now and then somebody may need to have some therapy. Sometime, somewhere, sometime in their life, everybody may need to talk to someone.
Right.
The longer you live.
And therapy could be, like you said, talking to a friend, or talking to, like you said, talking to a preacher or pastor at church, or a confessional. Therapy could be writing in a journal. If you're not comfortable talking to another person about what's going on with you yet, maybe you want to write it down in a journal, and that'll be a way to kind of get it out, or
Right.
Just,
sometimes people will talk to a stranger more than they'll talk to somebody that's close to them, because then they don't feel judged. So I'm going to talk to the stranger. I'll talk to a stranger and get it out. Not that
exactly.
take somebody off the street, but sometimes.
And sometimes you said people just want people to listen sometimes, just so they can get whatever is on their spirit off, just so it doesn't eat them alive, just so, it doesn't turn into something that they can't cope with, or turn into a suicide, or turn into violence or something. So, again, we are not doctors or mental health. We're just saying this based on our own experience and what we've seen as librarians and in our community. So,
Talk to somebody.
yes.
Right.
Maybe that person can refer you to someone.
Right, yeah, if they can refer you. Sometimes somebody may...
Like, I got a number, you can call these people if you really talk.
Right, or somebody may have gone through what you...
Or maybe they have
they-
gone through
they-
what you've
they-
gone through. And
they're able to
yeah.
help you. Well, this is what happened, and this happened to me. And I say that because when my son was killed, I did go to therapy. And when I talk to people, or people say, I'll tell me if you want to talk to me about, the child is... And I've talked to people before, so sometimes you go through something and it prepares you to help somebody else who goes through whatever. Maybe somebody's feeling
Might
bad
give you the
about
courage to
bad
go see a therapist.
Right.
Or support group or something.
Right.
Like, you know what, I think I am going to go see that doctor now.
Right, exactly.
Because I am not the only one going through
Right,
this.
I was just me.
Right, because that's how people feel, like it's me. It's,
Right,
who-
and they
nobody
have
else
things
got
like,
this
and there are
going
things
on.
like AA, or those that are support, they help you to cope with your alcoholism or your NA or whatever, and there are support groups out there that you can sit and talk about your feelings or what's going on with you, and
Just not be alone.
right, yeah.
Yes. That's
Okay.
most important.
So Parish, I'm not going to say I like the book or I hate the book, because I don't think this is one of those books where you can like or you can dislike. I just think it's a book that is, I understand why she wrote the book. I understand that this story may have needed to be told. So I appreciated the book for that. It was a hard read because of the content of the book, because of the subject matter of the book. So again, if you're interested in reading Parish, we let you know some of the trigger warnings in the book, and you can check it out if you think you can, handle these trigger warnings. What about you, Miss Yvonne?
Same thing. I can't. Yeah, I know I can never read it again.
I don't think we want to read this again, but
I cannot read that again.
okay.
It's mentally draining. It really was.
That it was. Miss Andrea, what do you get, Parrish?
I probably would not recommend the book to read. I mean, I can't even.
I guess it depends on the type of reader you are.
Right.
I mean, I read for enjoyment of a book.
Right.
I want to enjoy the book. When I get to
Exactly.
the end, I'm like, dang, that was a good book.
Right, it's like, man,
Not
I wish there was
like
more.
the-
But that was like, okay.
I mean, I've had books I haven't liked before, but this book,
it drained you. It was
like I said, it seriously did.
Yeah.
It drained me through the day trying to
And
read
you
it.
had, I
Finish,
had
you felt
to
like it
put
was
it
like-
I
down.
felt like I should just go lay down in
Right,
the bed.
so,
and just,
man, I can't, I need to drink after that.
that's what
book.
I need mental help after reading this book. I'm telling
You
you.
know,
That's seriously.
Yeah, I would feel like I had to put
Yeah.
it down, like reading. I had to close the
had
book
to, too.
and
I
set
had
it
to
to the
close
side.
it, push. I almost said I'm not reading it again because only reason I finished it because of this banner.
Right, I
Because
plowed through
seriously.
it, but it was, and like
That's
I said, it
what
was
I did.
very
Try to plow
confusing.
That too.
It was just, you had
There's
to
a lot
keep
going
going
on.
back and looking at the tree and like, who is this?
Figured out who was who and who
Who's
related
this
to who
daughter?
and who
Okay, she's who?
that
okay,
person was,
okay.
and
you
that
know.
was her. And I'm still confused. That's
Right, it was
the
still
whole book, I
confusing. You had to
still,
keep
like,
going back. You could never get the name
I was
straight.
stirred up in my mind here. I had to
So-
remember the facts and some, but the people's like, who did? Oh, she did that.
Who is related to who?
Yeah.
Right.
How
Who
they
did
fit
what
in
to
the
who?
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of confusing. And I guess, I guess they said it was well written, but it was just kind of a sad, depressing, draining story.
It
That it's
was.
not, you don't like you find. I like to, and I like to read horror, suspense. But this was just completely just depressing. It was just, I don't know, it just.
It is
Then
titled
it's
Parish
like you
now.
get
The
to the
title
end,
kind of. The
and
title
there's no
kind
shining
of.
moment. There's no
Right, there-
like
yeah,
I went
there's
all
no-
through
they-
this
they-
for what?
they
To
didn't
still
wrap
be
it up
depressed at
with-
the end.
Yeah,
You said
it was
that there's
like,
no relief. There's like.
There was no relief.
It was
you
like
get to the end of the
something-
book, like at least something happened. Somebody went to jail.
It's like no
somebody got
character
jail,
had any
something.
redeeming.
That's what I'm saying. There is nobody in here.
And
who
Helen
would
Jean
say,
was so unlikable. Like she was such an like I can't say that I was rooting for any of these characters or that I particularly was invested in because Helen Jean was, even though this terrible thing happened to her character was still so unlikable. Like
it wasn't
the
like
way
she
she
grew
treated her
up to, you know-
kids, the way she treated her grandkids,
she just
the what she did, to her own daughter. Like her character was just so unlikable, and even January's character, like she didn't do anything wrong, but her character was kind of like annoying. Like just none of these characters in
You
this
just didn't like
family.
anybody.
It wasn't that I didn't
They
like
were just
them.
there. you know.
Yeah, and like I said, I understand why she told this story, but again, it was a very hard. It not like the writing was great. The writing was good, like Miss Andrea said. It wasn't that the writing was bad at all. It's just the story itself
Storyline
was
was
very
just
hard. It was a very
hard to stomach.
yeah.
So, I
The
guess
triggers.
they
It was
wrote
graphic to some parts.
It was
to
graphic.
show what families do or secrets that
Generational,
families
yeah.
keep, and nobody's getting any help. And this is and I'm sure she got resources, or she looked, or she found or took pieces from different things to create this story, because it probably happens in families years way back then where stuff started. So I'm sure she did some research on it of what happens, and
I hope she did. I hope she didn't come out of her mind, because
just
that would
made
be
that up and
sad.
said,
And
this
sick.
sounds like a good story.
Like, where did you get that from?
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't. I didn't really read anything about, but maybe like you said, it's from personal experience or somebody she knew their
Right,
experience,
she may have-
and
yeah, she
it
may
could
have
have been
Question,
pieced
like, what was
together.
your motivation to write this?
Like you said, we're all descended from slaves. So as we know what happened during slavery to black women.
Right.
So this, like you said, it could be a combination of, like you said, generational trauma and, family trauma going on, ranging back from slavery times, because, like I said, as we all know, we know how black women were treated, and black men, during slavery.
Right. And if you remember in The Color Purple, when Celie said, "A woman child ain't safe with a bunch of men," because they were molesting them. She wasn't safe. So this is probably something that
Right.
that did
And it
happen
happened,
back
right.
then, and she just
It wasn't talked about, like you said.
Right,
It
it was
went
just-
on. These, especially like you said, way out. Well, like you said, The Color Purple, my favorite movie, prime example. They lived on a farm out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Wasn't nobody coming on their farm. So, like you said, they had all these kids
Child
running
wasn't
around.
safe
They-
with a bunch of men. So that's what it
and
was.
anyway, like you said, who was they gonna tell? Where was they gonna go?
Right, they just had to endure it and, you know.
They just
and,
cope with it and
you know, it
do
probably
life.
happened not only in black families, but white families
yeah,
too. Definitely
probably.
in black, you know, that was just the way it was back then, you know.
But especially with men, like you said, if it happened to men, you know, we have this stigma of what's a man. You know, if a man gets raped, you don't talk about that. You don't say, you know, my daddy or my uncle over here
Well,
doing this to me. You don't talk about that. You don't say that. That's, you
even
know.
today.
Yeah, you don't.
Well, hopefully today you do talk
Well,
about
I'm
it.
saying that you don't hear. I mean,
You don't hear about it, but I do remember, and this was when I was younger, there was a friend of mine whose uncle was molesting his daughter. And her stepmother, they knew it. They knew it. And then nobody did anything about it. And she ended up leaving because her mother wouldn't believe her. And she ended up leaving. But I remember her, you know, they'd see that she'd be on the back of the motorcycle with her dad, and they said, "There goes it. Is it on?"
Oh, turn off. So we have Parish available here to check out at the library. If you're interested in reading Parish, please stop by the Broadview Library. We'd be happy to check it out to you. Thank you for joining us for this book banter, and we will see you next time.